Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. For my returning viewers, welcome back. Today we're going to be replacing a fuel pump on this 2013 Toyota Tundra. Now this process should be the same for an 07 to 21 Tundra as well as Sequoia. So the reason we're replacing the fuel pump today, this is my buddy's truck, and when it sets for any amount of time, the truck will not start unless he primes it, 4 or 5 times. So the check ball that holds the pressure in the fuel lines has gone bad. So now that the pump's starting to fail, we're going to go ahead and replace it before it gets any worse. Now he called around several shops, and the replacement of this fuel pump, they were quoting him anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. This fuel pump, I believe he got online for around $200, and so doing it ourselves, we're going to save about $1,000. So I'll insert a picture of this fuel pump as well as the number if you want to try to find this exact one. I'll try to make it easy to do that. So without anything further, let's jump in and get started. So we've got the hood up. We're looking at the driver's side here where your battery and fuse block are, and we're going to get the pressure off of the fuel system. So how we're going to do that is we're going to open our fuse box, find our fuel pump fuse, pull that fuse, and then we're going to start the engine and let the truck die, and that'll bleed all the pressure that's left in the fuel system. Okay, so we'll open our fuse box. See which way it's laid out here and find our fuel pump. Get you in here where you can see. So our fuel pump, may be a glare for you, right here. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's our 5th one down, and it's a 25 amp. So we'll come right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 down, it's a 25 amp. So we'll go ahead and pull that one. Now that we have that fuse removed, we're going to start the truck, get the pressure off the system, and then we're going to disconnect our battery. So that's what you should expect to hear too. Truck run just a little bit and then die. So now let's disconnect our battery, so we don't have any chance of sparks or anything like that when we open up the fuel system. Let me show you how to disconnect the battery. Okay, so now we're at our battery. The nuts on these terminals, to loosen them up, you're going to need a 10 millimeter. Once you kind of get them loosened, you may need to put a screwdriver or the end of your wrench in here to widen that back out. So this terminal will be loose. Then you just take the terminal off. We're going to do the same thing to our positive side over here. Start with loosening the nut. Wiggle the terminal. Take it off. So just to give you some reference where we're at, here's the driver's side, rear tire. Now we're going to come right under here and start disconnecting some fuel lines. And I've just got some very basic tools right now. Flat blade screwdriver, a set of pliers, and a 10 millimeter socket and ratchet. So if you see this is your fuel filler. We're going to leave this connected here. We're going to disconnect this from the tank side. This other evap line, we'll disconnect this. You just pull this tab back and it'll expose these gray connectors, and you just push the gray connectors and wiggle that off. I'm gonna move the camera back a little bit just so I don't drip fuel on those in case any comes out. Okay, no fuel came out of that one. Let's move under the truck a little more. We'll start disconnecting the rest. Okay, so this small line here is the one we just disconnected. and it's held into a clip, so if you push it up just a little bit, it'll be free, and now we can feed it back over on the top side of this frame rail whenever we're dropping the tank. So the next thing we're gonna go after here is this big line on the evap canister that is connected to the tank, and then there's a bracket up on top of the tank that's holding another one of these lines. We'll want to disconnect that before we drop the tank. I'm just getting a screwdriver under these tabs and kind of pushing. Just trying to be careful not to break it. Just push it a little bit back on either side. Okay. Now that we've got it fully out, now it should just pull right off. Just wiggle it around a little bit. Be patient, take your time, try not to break anything. There we go. Now we're disconnected. After we get that disconnected, there's one more bracket right here you can see that's holding this other line to the top of the fuel tank. We're gonna remove that. It just pushes in there, so get you a trim remover tool or a flat blade screwdriver. We're gonna pull this line off this bracket, and then we're gonna disconnect the filler neck. So it's gonna be hard to film this, but I'm just gonna get a flathead or something under there, pry this away, and then we'll disconnect the filler neck. Okay, to disconnect our filler neck, there's a 10mm head on this clamp that's holding it on. We're just gonna loosen that off. Okay, now that that's loosened, we'll just wiggle this and pull it up off there. Okay, and now that the filler neck's off there, I'm gonna take a shop towel and just kind of put down in the top of that spout so we minimize any dirt, debris getting in there. Okay, so now we're at the front of the tank. We got that one back connector in the back disconnected, and we got our filler neck disconnected. So we got two more lines in the front, so I still got a pan underneath just to catch any drips. These are the same as the one in the back. This lock tab pries up, and then you get access to these two tabs. You can depress them and remove this. Whew. Okay, removing that one, we got soaked in fuel, so that's why we got our bucket closed. So now we'll just undo our other connector. And sometimes with these, it helps if you push it back, like seat the connector down more, depress the tabs, and then remove the line. Okay, now with all that disconnected, the last couple things are going to be our saddle tank straps or fuel tank straps. We're going to just loosen this nut here. The fuel tank strap will come off. There's two straps on this tank, so you're going to have two to loosen, and then this tank will drop down. So this would be a good time to get you a friend to help out, or if you have a jack, you could use a jack. I'm going to put my transmission jack as close to the middle here as I can and use that to help support it and bring this thing down. I think we're sitting at around a half a tank, so this is ideal to do if this tank is close to empty, but it is what it is. So get you a helper, a couple jacks, a transmission jack, whatever you got. We're just going to try to lower this thing slowly. So while we're lowering this, we're going to be mindful of that very first line we disconnected by the fill neck. We're going to need to feed that over the frame rail so it doesn't get hung up. So let me get my transmission jack set up and I'll be right back with you. All right, now I have my transmission jack in place, just lightly supporting the weight of this fuel tank. I'm going to remove the two fasteners on these straps. These are 14mm, and then we'll start lowering this tank. Here's the first one. Now that the bolts are undone, if we come to the other side of the strap, see there's a pin holding this strap in. We're going to take this little key out that's retaining this pin, take the pin out, and take these entire straps off. Alright, now that strap's out of our way, we're going to do the same thing to the other one. Now that everything's disconnected, we'll start lowering our jack while supporting this fuel tank and just try to lower it down slowly. Again, we're going to be mindful of the line we have coming across the top of this frame rail. Just make sure that gets fed over and doesn't get caught up and snagged on anything. So let's start lowering our jack down. Okay, now I've got this line fed under, so we're not going to catch it on anything. So I thought we were going to be able to get this tank down a little further, but we're getting hung up by the fuel lines that are still connected to the frame rail. And that's fine. We'll adapt. We'll overcome. I got the back of the fuel tank sitting on the ground, and we'll just go ahead and disconnect these lines. So if you need to mark them, mark them. But you're just going to pry this yellow tab away. Okay, so you're just going to remove that yellow tab completely. Set it to the side. And now our line will just pull straight out. For our electrical connector, there's a tab on this side. Gonna depress that tab and just wiggle the connector up. Gonna get our other yellow lock tab removed here. Okay, got our other lock connector removed. Line came straight up. Now we're good to finish dropping the tank. There we go. Tank is all the way out. Now that we've got the tank out, we're just going to take a minute to clean up any debris right here, because once we open this up, we want to try to minimize any debris we're going to be dropping down in the tank. Hopefully we want to make that 0 debris. Got a little bit of gas spilled here in this divot, so I'm going to soak it up. At this point, if your tank's not marked, you'll want to mark it. But you can see this arrow highlighted with yellow. There's a mark on the tank right here, so when we tighten this retainer ring down, we're going to shoot for getting that lined back up with this. So now to get that lock ring off, you want either a pry bar, screwdriver, something, and a hammer, and we're going to hit this lock ring counterclockwise and loosen it off. Okay, now that we got that ring off, a little more cleaning. Then we'll remove the old pump. We'll let the gas that's in the pump drain out. Okay. Okay, so now we have the new pump. Here's our float. You're gonna put it in just like so. Press it all the way down until it locks in. Okay, now we have our new float attached to our new pump. Installation of the pump will just be reversal of what we just took out. So what we're going to want to make sure is, you see this tab right here by the electrical connector. When you're putting the new pump in, there's a tab back here. So that tab by the electrical connector is going to sit down into there, and then we're going to screw it back down. So let's work on doing that now. You'll put the float in first, in the body of the pump. Okay, so this part's kind of tricky. Put the lug nut around your hand, get the tab lined up, push your fuel pump down, and then tighten the lock ring down. Now remember that arrow that was marked on the tank? We're going to hammer it, get it lined back up with that, and it will be good to reinstall. Okay, now we're lined back up with our mark. Now installation will just be the reverse of removal. So we'll slide the fuel tank in, we'll prop the front end up, get all of our lines reestablished and our electrical connector reestablished, jack the tank back up, strap it in. Okay, make sure those get pushed all the way through and the locks get seated on the opposite side. Okay, now that we got everything on the top of the fuel pump reconnected, we're gonna work on getting our fuel tank raised back up and the straps put back on. So before I lift the tank up anymore, I'm gonna take this very first line we disconnected that goes over the frame rail, feed it over the frame rail back to where it goes. Okay, so now that's across, it'll be ready to be hooked up. So I'm gonna start raising this tank slowly, and then we'll get the back strap in place. Then after we get the back strap down, we'll get the front strap back on. All right, for these straps, we're gonna stick them back in. Feed the pin through. Okay, we're pretty close with that. I'm gonna need to go up on the jack a little bit more so we can get that bolt started. Got it put in just a couple threads. I'm gonna get it started a little bit more. Okay, now that that strap is started, we'll put the front strap on. And same process as before. I'm gonna get the pivot side of the strap put on. I'm not gonna worry about the safety pin just yet. Now we'll get our bolt started. Now that our bolt's started by hand, we can run it down. Now that we've got our fuel tank strap secured, we just got to finish hooking back up all of our lines that we disconnected initially till they click and seat. Okay, I had to push those tabs in to get this one to seat. We'll push our lock connector back down. Same thing with our other line. Give it a tug, make sure it's nice and snug. Okay, let's reconnect our evap canister. Okay, make sure your lock seat's back down all the way. Now let's pull our shop rag out. Put our fuel hose back on. Tighten down the clamp. Okay, now we're over to our last connection to reinstall. Again, I'm going to get to where I can push the tabs down on this. Get it to seat all the way. Okay, give it a tug, make sure it doesn't come off. Push your lock connector back down. Now we're done. So now that we finished everything under the truck, all the fuel lines are hooked back up, filler neck's hooked back up, straps are tightened, we're ready to reinstall the fuse for the fuel pump, so we'll do that. Put our cover back on, and then we'll put our battery cables back on. Now these are a little corroded, so before I put them back on, I'm gonna grab a brush and clean the terminals of the battery and the battery cables themselves. You can get one of these for probably like $5 at any parts store. Terminal cleaner on the very bottom, and then this top portion removes and you can clean your battery cable side. So To clean the terminal portion, this just simply goes down on over, rotate around. Do the same to both sides. And we'll take the cap off, go inside the terminal. Now we'll just tighten these clamps on the cables back down. All right, now let's prime the fuel system, start the truck up, check for leaks under the truck. All right, last step in this process. We've got everything reconnected. Now it's time to prime the fuel system. So we're gonna put the key in the ignition, put it to the run position. Fuel pump usually runs for 5 to 10 seconds. We're gonna cycle the key off, cycle the key back on, let the fuel pump run, prime the system. We're gonna do this 4 or 5 times, and then we'll start the truck. There we go. Truck fired right up. The truck's running good. Now I'll just go check for leaks and we're all done. Well, that's it, guys. We're all done with the truck. Went good. This project took me about 5 hours. Probably take you 3 to 4 hours. Takes a little longer with filming, trying to move the camera around, get you guys the best shots possible and the most detail possible so you can feel confident to take this on yourself. And I hope this video did just that. I hope it gave you the confidence to take this on and do it yourself at your house. And you're gonna save yourself about $1,000 if you do that. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment. If you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for watching.